with me. My father hardly ever accompanied her, always having an excuse of a business meeting he couldn't get out of. She stopped next to my bed, her gaze boring holes in my eyes. "What have you done this time, Zoe?" Mom lifted my arm, briefly inspected the bandage covering my wrist, and dropped it, disgust written all over her face. I cringed at the sound of the name she'd given me at birth, but I didn't have the strength to correct her. She leaned down and whispered harshly, "You know there are millions of people who would give anything to have the life we've given you. But no, you're just an ungrateful, self-centered brat." Trying to ignore the shadowed creatures, I swallowed hard and licked my lips. "Go." Her eyes flared with irritation. "Don't you dare suggest I don't care about my daughter." I winced, curling onto my side as what felt like knives dug into my stomach. "You don't?" Nurse Helen picked up the chart hanging on the end of my trolley as she gave me the same pitiful smile she always wore when I ended up in her emergency room. "What are we in for this time, Lucy?" she asked, perusing the paperwork, knowing full well it wasn't just my wrist that was the problem. Mom glared at me as Helen addressed me by my chosen name. She grabbed my elbow and lifted it to show my wrist. "She's done it again," she said, with a catch in her voice. I wanted to gag at the falseness of her sincerity, but that would have taken effort I didn't have. Normal teenage daughter attitude wasn't something I could muster when I felt as if an alien were trying to claw its way out of my stomach. My brain was telling me my thumb was missing, and evil creatures out of nightmares were chasing me down, lurking around the hospital, waiting for their chance to eat me. Nurse Helen sighed, her eyes softening as they locked onto mine. "Why do you keep doing this to yourself, baby girl?" Wasn't it obvious? I wanted to die. And once again, I'd defied death, and somehow my injuries were not as bad as I'd first thought. I was sure I had cut deep enough so I couldn't be saved by anyone other than a paramedic who was able to perform miracles. Obviously, I was wrong. She returned the folder to the end of the bed and rubbed the blanket covering my foot. "I'll get you a room and some painkillers." "Thanks." I winced as a doctor unwrapped the bandage covering the thumbless guy. "But you better get that woman to the OR." I pointed to the middle-aged lady next to me, writhing in pain. "Her appendix is about to explode," I said through gritted teeth. I'd felt that blinding pain once before, and I never wanted to experience it again. Nurses weren't supposed to take the advice of an 18-year-old patient, or any patient for that matter. But they'd ignored my warning once before, and the guy went into cardiac arrest and couldn't be saved. It seemed as if I knew each and every disease and illness found in medical journals, or on Google for that matter, and could tell them apart. I'd make the perfect doctor if I weren't cursed to actually feel the patient's pain. Nurse Helen gave me a small nod, then turned her attention to the woman. Just like I'd predicted, within seconds, Helen called for assistance, and the woman was raced into surgery. I sighed with relief when she was far enough away that I was no longer able to feel her pain. But it was only for a moment. Everyone else's injuries and illnesses became all-consuming. Mom looked down at me, trying her best to cover the mixture of emotions she was going through. I scared the hell out of her sometimes, and even though she wasn't a God-loving church attendee, my mother believed I was an evil spirit she had been cursed to spawn. She was here only for show. My father was a politician, and there was no way she could have the media tarnish his or her reputation. Her words faded, the delusional icehead's fears taking over me as the dark shadow creatures swept through the air, closing in on me. I grabbed at her arm, but she pulled it away before I could get a hold. I needed pain relief.